Hey class, welcome back to lesson 5. Today we're going to be talking about the cosine law. Just so you know, your homework is going to be page 13 to 17 in your workbook. And we're just going to get started. By the end of today's lesson, the goals are to know how to use the cosine law to solve for acute triangles when you're either given two sides and a contained angle. That means that you have two sides and the angle in the middle of those two sides. Or the measure of three sides. So if you're given all three sides and no angles, you can use cosine law. So cosine law can be used to solve the following triangles. They can be used, so the cosine law, is a relationship between the length of three sides and the cosine of an angle in any triangle, right? Cosine law can be used to solve an acute triangle when either you're given two sides and a contained angle, so that means that you're given two sides and then the angle in the middle, kind of like if you're given this triangle here, if you're given x and y and then you're given the angle in the middle there, you can use cosine law. Or you can use cosine law when you're given all three sides and no angle. Okay? Just so that you know what those mean. And I'll actually draw it out so that we can keep it. So you can use cosine law if you're given these two, or, so I'll put this over here, or, so this would be side, angle, side, or when you're given all three sides and no angle. So if you're given x, y, and z, right, this is side, side, and side. When you're given two sides that contain an angle, to find the measure of the third side, the cosine law can be written like this. So say if you're given side A, B, and C, if you want to find what the unknown angle is, if you're trying to find triangle, if you're trying to find the cosine A, you can use a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos A, right? So if you have this pink triangle, right, and you're trying to find out, okay, what is the angle opposite of that, you can use the measure like this. You can use a squared plus b squared equals, a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos A. If you're trying to find the opposite angle and it's b, you can use this. I would go in and make note of this formula and put it onto any reference sheet that I would have. It's really useful if you just have all of them there, right? Say you're given three sides on the other hand. So say I'm given three sides. So this is like triangle XYZ over here, right? In order to find the measure of an unknown triangle, you can use this, the unknown angle, right? So if you're looking for what A is, you can use cosine A is equal to b squared plus c squared minus a squared over 2bc. So the one thing that you're definitely going to have to do is go in and label these sides. So I labeled it as XYZ, but even if you label this as A, B, C, right? And in this situation, it doesn't matter what you label A, B, or C. You just need to make sure that you remember what the corresponding angle is. So this is A, this is C, and this is B, right? Because the side is always the opposite of where the angle is. Okay? So let's use cosine law to just solve these triangles. So it says here, use cosine law to solve for the unknown. So it says to find angle B. So in this situation, I'm given two sides, right, and then the contained angle. So I'm looking for side B. So if I'm given two sides and the contained angle, I'm going to use, if I go back up here, I'm looking for a side, not an angle, so I'm going to use this one. So I'm going to use b squared, right, because I'm looking for b. B squared equals a squared plus c squared minus 2ac cos B. So I'm going to go use that formula. Let's just put it in. So it's b squared, right, because b is what I'm looking for, is equal to a squared plus c squared minus 2ac cosine B. I have cosine B, it's right here. I have A and I have C, right? So A and C, and I'm just looking for B now. So I can just go in and put my information in. So B squared, I don't know what that is. I know A is 36, so I'm going to write 36 squared, plus C, which is 52 squared, minus 2 times 36 times 52 times cosine 42. And if you have a calculator, you can just go in and put all of this in at once, or you can use BudMath. Either way, if you put it all in at once, your calculator will just spit out one answer, and it should be the right answer. But if you would like, you can go through it individually. So I'm just going to do 36 squared, so B squared is equal to 1296 plus 52 squared is 22704 minus, and I'm just going to put all this into my calculator because it just gets messy otherwise. So 2 times 36, 52 times cosine 42, right? And all of that adds up to, or when you multiply all that, 2782.33, and I like to leave it at 4 decimal places, right? Now I'm just going to do 1296 plus 2704 minus my answer over here, 2782, right? And that will give me B squared is equal to 1217.66, and I like to leave it again at 4 decimal places, just because when I'm solving it's easier that way. Now I'm going to square root both sides to get that B by itself, so I'm left with B is equal to, B is equal to 34.89, and I'm going to leave it at 9. And it's meters, so meters. So my answer here is going to be, this side is 34.9 meters. And I hope that makes sense. So I would pause the video here and you can try doing the next one by yourself, and then we'll just take it up together as well. This is a little bit different because at this point you have all of your sides. You're looking for an angle in this situation. You're looking for angle B as well, right? So you're going to use the cosine law values that we used for when you have all 3 sides, right? And you're looking for an unknown angle, so you're going to look for this one. You're going to use cosine B is equal to A squared plus C squared minus B squared over 2AC. And really, this formula is just this formula rearranged. So I'm just going to quickly show you that as well. So if I was to take cosine B, and I know this one has cosine B in it, so I'm going to use that formula. So I'm going to say, okay, B squared, B squared is equal to A squared plus C squared minus 2AC cos B, right? And I want to get that B cos B by itself. So I'm going to actually bring over the 2AC cos B term to this side. So I'm going to say, okay, B squared plus 2AC cosine B is equal to A squared plus C squared, right? And then I'm going to say I want to get rid of this B squared on this side, so I'm going to minus B squared from both sides, right? So I'm left with 2AC cosine B is equal to A squared plus C squared minus B squared, all divided by, if I want to get the cosine A by itself, I'm just going to divide it by 2AC. 2AC. So then I know that cosine B is equal to A squared plus C squared minus b squared over 2ac, which makes sense because that's what it's equal to here, right? So just remember that if you remember these, right, you'll know these automatically. They are the same thing. It's just if it makes more sense for you to remember them separately, then you can do that as well. Personally, I always like to remember for triangle ABC, I just like to remember the top ones and then I just rearrange the equation, but it's completely up to you how you'd like to do that. So I'm going to let you solve this. So hopefully you've just pause the video. Okay, so hopefully you pause the video and you're just coming back now. Let's take this up. So we know that we have all three sides here and we're looking for an angle that's in there. So we're looking for cosine B. So I'm just going to go back and use my formula for cosine B, which I know is cos B is equal to a squared plus c squared minus b squared over 2ac. And before I get started, let's just label our sides. So I know this is angle B, so across from it will be side B. This is angle C, so across from it will be side C. This is angle A, so across from it will be side A. And now that I have all my labels done, I can just go in and start filling stuff in. I don't know what cos B is because I don't know what B is yet. So I'll leave that as is. A squared is 15 squared plus 6. Oh, sorry, 6 is B. So plus 11 squared minus 6 squared, all divided by 2 times 15 times 11. Right, so cosine B, and we're just going to start solving. So 15 squared is equal to 225. Plus 11 squared is equal to 121. 6 squared is 36. All divided by 2 times 15 is 30 times 11 is going to be 330. Right, I'm just going to carry this over to the other side over here. So then I'm left with 225 plus 121 minus 36 is going to be 310. So cosine B is equal to 310 divided by 330, right? Cosine B (310 divided by 330) is going to give me 0.939393939, right? So I'm just going to write in as many as I can. 0.939393939, right? And now I'm going to do inverse cos for both sides to get rid of the cosine, right? Inverse cos. So inverse cosine will knock these out here. I'm left with inverse cos of that. And it should give me 20.04, so I'm just going to leave it at 20. So angle B in this situation is equal to 20. So it's a little bit more complicated, I feel like, to find angles, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy to do. Just the numbers are pretty big. So it says here, in triangle ABC, angle B is equal to 40, A is equal to 50, and C is equal to 34. Find B, so that's side B, to the nearest meter, right? So in this situation, I already drew it out for you, but if you were to draw this out, you would know that you would have to draw out a triangle, right? So I'm just going to draw it out with you. So you draw out this triangle, you'd have triangle A, B, C, and you would just remember that you're looking for B, so you don't know what this is, right? You know what C is, and it's 34. You know what A is, and it's 50, and you know that angle B is 40, right? So just so that you know how we drew this triangle in the future. So you are going to use cosine law because in this situation you have two sides, right? So you have two sides, and the contained angle. So it makes sense to use cosine law. Okay, so let's use cosine law here. Let's go in and put in our labels. So I know that this is side B. I know that's angle B. I already said which side's A and which side's C. So we're done that. So let's go use cosine law. I'm looking for side B, so I know B squared is equal to A squared plus C squared. And I just took this from the top. Multiplied by, minus 2AC times cos B. Right, so let's go just put in our numbers. I don't know what B squared is. That's what I'm looking for. I know A squared is 50. I know C is 634 squared minus 2 times 50 times 34 cos B is 40. Right? So let's go put in our numbers. So I have 50 squared, which is going to give me 2500 plus 34 squared, which is going to give me 1156 minus, and like I said, I'm just going to go put in 2 times 50 times 34 times cosine 40. I'm just going to put it all in one line. So I got 2604.55, and I like to the 4 decimal places, right? So 5511. So I'm just going to go in and do that. So I'm going to do 2500 plus 1156 minus 2604.5511. Right, so I'm left with B squared is equal to 1051.4489, right? And then I want to get the B by itself, so I'm going to square root both sides. So I'm left with B is equal to square root of 1051.4489 is 32.426, so I'm just going to leave it at 32.4. right? Or it says to the nearest meter, so it would just be 32. So 32 meters. So therefore, side B, sorry, I don't know why this keeps happening. Side B is 32 meters. And that's my statement. Cool. So one last example. In this situation, it's example 3 when you're given 3 sides. Again, I went in and drew it in. But for yourself, I would know how to draw this. So let's just pretend like this isn't here for now. I'm just going to go in and put in a square around it. See if I can just... Never mind. We're just going to pretend that that's not there. But let's draw it out together. So it says a triangle DEF, right? Triangle DEF. So I'm just going to go in DEF, right? Has these 3 sides. So side D, that means the side across from angle D is going to be 64 centimeters, right? And I'm just going to write that in. D is equal to 64. The side across from E is equal to 53 centimeters, right? And the side across from F is equal to 50 centimeters, right? So now that we have our triangle, we know that it's all 3 sides, so we're going to use cosine law in this situation. And it says use cosine law to find each angle of the triangle to the nearest degree. So let's use it to find F, and then we can use it to find the other ones as well. So I just want to start off with F because I don't know. That's the one I wanted to start off with. So let's go find angle F. So angle F, and it says to find each of them, right? So we have to do this a few times. So in order to find angle F, we're going to have to use cosine law. So I'm going to use cosine F is equal to, right? And it's the same as A squared plus B squared minus C squared. Like, that's what we're going to be using. So what you need to remember is that in this situation, you're going to find the 2 angles that are not involved, right? So the 2 angles D and E, so not F, and you're going to subtract F, right? So you're always subtracting the angle that corresponds, or you're always subtracting the side that corresponds with the angle that you're looking for, right? So you aren't looking for angle D, you aren't looking for angle E, so you're going to add those, but you are looking for angle F, so that's the one that's going to be the one that's subtracted. All divided by 2DE. Right? Again, the angles that are not involved is what you're going to be dividing by. So cosine F is equal to, so D is 64 squared, right? Plus 53 squared minus 50 squared divided by 2 times 64 times 53. Right, so cosine F. And I'm just going to go in and do the addition without writing it out. You can write it all out if you want, but I just went and did it all in one line. So I know that all of those together are going to be 4504. And then 2 times 64 times 53 is going to give me 6784. Right? So then I'm going to say, okay, cosine F is equal to 4405 divided by 6784, which is roughly 0.64932, 2. And then I'm going to do, okay, let's get rid of the cosine here. So I'm going to do cos inverse multiplied by cosine F. We'll cancel it out. And then I'll have negative cos inverse here. Right, so I'm just going to find the cos inverse here. And it's going to give me cosine F is equal to 49.5. And like for angles, we like to keep it to the nearest. Right, so I'm just going to leave it as angle F to the nearest angle. So we're just going to leave it as angle 50 degrees. Right? So now that I know what angle F is, I always like to just go draw them in. So I know this is 50 degrees. And now I need to find another angle. So maybe I'll go and find angle D just because it's the next one kind of to the left over here. So let's go do that. So I'm going to use a green marker to find angle D. Right? And angle D, I'm finding it the same way. So I'm going to say cosine D is equal to, now I'm going to say it's equal to E squared, right, plus F squared minus D squared, because D is the angle that I'm looking for, so the D squared needs to be minused, over 2EF, because E and F are the two other angles, or the other sides that I'm looking at without the side D. So then I have cosine D is equal to angle, or side E is 53, side F is 64, side D is oh no, not 64, side D is 64, side F is 50, minus 64 squared, all over 2 times 53 times 50. And again, I'm just going to go in and do the math without writing it all out. So I'm just going to put it all into my calculator at one time. So I'm going to do 53 squared plus 50 squared minus 64 squared is going to give me 1213. And then I'm going to do 2 times 53 times 50 is going to give me 5300. Right? And then I'm going to say, okay, cosine D is equal to 1213 divided by 5300 is going to give me like 0.22867, right? 9. And then I want to use cos inverse to get rid of the cosine here. Same here, cos inverse of this number is going to give me angle D is equal to 56.7, so we'll leave it at 77. 76.7, but we'll leave it at 77. Okay, so now I know the angle D here is 77 degrees. Now I have two of the angles inside of my triangle, which means that to find the last angle, angle E, what I can just do is I know all of these angles add up to 180, so I can say, okay, angle E is equal to 180 minus 50 minus 77, and that'll give me 53. So let's find angle E. I'll use orange to find angle E. Is equal to 180 minus 50 minus 77, which is equal to 53 degrees. And now you found all the angles in here, and you already knew all the sides to begin with. Okay? Oops. I'm just going to go put this in here. Cool. All right, and that is it for cosine law. Try doing the practice problems. This is a little bit more complicated than sine law, so it will take a little bit of practice, but it'll really help if you have the practice problems in the textbook or the workbook that we're using. Try doing pages 13 and 17, and those are really good to help you understand which ones we're supposed to use. So between sine law and cosine law, which one should you use, and then how to use it and actually do the work. Okay?